Okay. Okay, kids. All indications are that I am alive across all platforms. So let's see how this goes. I'm making this public, even though I probably shouldn't, because I am very much not great at doing this yet. This is more of a test broadcast. But here's the deal. My name is Brian Cree. I'm running for U.S. House District 3 in South Carolina. I am planning on, as often as I possibly can, going live and talking to people within the district and voters across the country, quite frankly, because this is social media and that's how social media works. You have to talk to everybody when you come on here. You can't pick and choose. So I am on TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube live right now. And I have not mastered multi chat, so it's kind of difficult for me to monitor all the chats. That's kind of on the um, horizon of getting that figured out. If anybody who's been following me for a while kind of knows that I have had a lot of trouble getting multi streaming working. And so now that I've got that working, the next goal would be to get multi chat up so that I can answer chats. The good news is that most of my chats come through on the TikTok channel because that's where I have a better following. And so hopefully I'll have some commentary that I can respond to until such time as I get the multi chat system figured out. Um, I have a Sikhs disaffected conservatives, not liberals, on my um, on my TikTok profile. It's not showing up on the other thing. That's another multi-stream thing I have to get figured out yet. But anyway, and I want to point out something that there is a home for liberals in the Libertarian Party, 100%, 100%. I just think that the road is further along. And if you can get viability, I think the shortest path to viability is through conservatism, not through liberalism, and at least not modern liberalism. And I think that road is further along. And I think it's further along because at the core of modern leftist ideology, the modern left, the modern Democrat, at the core of that right now is very much a belief in the state, in government, as something that should be providing health care, that should be providing housing. Certainly, the idea of even raising the retirement age, let alone getting rid of Social Security altogether or Medicare altogether, these are anathema to the left. And I'm not attacking the left on these issues. I just think from an economic perspective, they are way further away to being able to understand laissez-faire economics than a conservative. Now, look, don't get me wrong. Boomer conservatives have no desire to see any alterations to Social Security either. But I think Gen X conservatives like myself, consider myself a conservative libertarian. I'm going to explain to you what I mean by that here shortly. I consider myself a conservative libertarian. I think conservatives in general have a general disdain for government. They don't govern that way. They don't vote that way. But in their core is an anti-government kind of rebellious ideology. That's at the core of it. So the pathway is shorter for, I think, a conservative than a liberal because I think the shift in how you view the world is different. Now, it just so happens that that's fortunate for me because I live in upstate South Carolina. I'm running for U.S. House in a very conservative district. And so, from my perspective, I'm reaching out to rural conservatives in South Carolina and saying, look, I understand that you like Donald Trump. I understand why you voted for him. I didn't vote for him, but I know a lot of libertarians who did, and I can understand. Look, $2 trillion in budget cuts, no new wars, America first, tariffs, although I think tariffs are, from an economic perspective, tariffs are a bad idea. But I get the idea of bring jobs home, protect American workers, and we got to deport all these illegal immigrants flooding into the country. And those last two things I don't necessarily agree with. As if you follow along with me, I'm gonna explain my positions on those and why I differ from a lot of conservatives on those items. I'm also gonna talk about legalization, which is kind of the elephant in the room when you're talking to conservatives. Um, but otherwise, I think, like I said, there's a pathway, a much shorter pathway for conservatives to join the libertarian movement than the modern left. Now, if you're a classic liberal, that's a whole different thing. But when I say liberals, I'm talking about kind of like the modern left. I think is much further away from libertarianism than the right. Which brings me to the LNC, the Libertarian National Convention. And I'm only going to talk about this for a minute because nobody outside of the Libertarian Party is very interested in this. And I'm only addressing it because if you look up libertarianism, what you'll find is kind of the most outrageous, crazy things that happen at our biannual convention. And that's what you're going to see, and that's what the representation of the Libertarian Party is. And the Libertarian Convention was kind of a mess this year. A lot of hijinks, a lot of nonsense, a lot of inside baseball stuff. And I don't know why there's this. I have plenty of liberal friends in the Libertarian Party who are reasonable, intelligent people. They want to see a smaller government. They want to return to the Constitution. They want those things. But just like in general society, there are extremes on both sides of this thing. The extremes in the Libertarian Party were from New Hampshire. They got disaffiliated, kicked out of the party. The extremes on the other side kind of won at the national level this time. And not even the extremes, that the left kind of won at this year's national convention. And I have some understanding as to why that happened. But the imagery you're going to see coming out of there, excuse me, I think that the Libertarian Party is often portrayed, especially if we start gaining any ground, as kind of this, we're just Republicans who like to get high, or I don't know, liberals who like guns or whatever. And then to turn off conservative voters, and I think that we make more inroads with conservatives than liberals. And I think that this is why this imagery is what is most often associated with the party, is kind of this far left image of the party. And that's just not what it is. And you're going to see that kind of imagery coming out of the National Convention. All I can tell you is that I am a conservative libertarian running in upstate South Carolina. So what does conservative libertarian mean? It means I have conservative personal values. And what I think conservative personal values are, it's kind of the common thing, man. It's faith, family, country. I am a patriotic person. I think that the founding principles of our country are a beautiful thing. I think the founding fathers were geniuses. I don't judge them through the 21st century lens for their very obvious shortcomings, because I'm able to look at the world kind of through the looking glass of this is what the world was at this time. And so they were incredibly forward thinkers for their time. I think the principles of liberty in the U.S. Constitution, which places the individual above the state, which places the individual above the collective, was amazing. And the fact that we are the only constitution, some constitutions grant similar rights to the U.S. Constitution, but the U.S. Constitution and our founders were the only ones who didn't view the Constitution as something that granted rights, but limited government, and that our rights precede government and don't need permission to be authorized, to be exercised. That's an amazing, beautiful, forward-thinking way of looking at the world. And that Constitution and that successful revolution and the period of the United States before it was corrupted in the early 1900s and the bankers took over and everything kind of went sideways is one of the most miraculous economic miracles in the history of humankind. And it's a beautiful freaking thing. And so I love my country. I love my country's history. I don't love my government. And it is my government that has brought this country to the brink of absolute insolvency. And it is my government that is putting the United States of America in a place where it may not succeed past its 250th year in the way that we view it today. We are printing $2 trillion a year in debt because our government over 100 years ago turned our currency over to a central bank. You can't afford to buy a home. You can't afford to buy food. You can't afford to buy health care because of our government's intervention and a bunch of sociopathic central planners who think that they can operate an economy this size. And if you just give them a little bit more power, if you just pass one more rule, one more regulation, one more law, we'll get this thing dialed in. All you have to do is give away a little bit of your liberty, give us a little bit more power, give us a little bit more revenue, and we can solve all of these problems. And that is our government. And that is from my perspective, a completely compromised Republican Party and at least a Democrat Party that is honest and has been honest about who they are and what they want to do. At least they're honest about it. So that's that. The next thing I want to address, and like I said, this is kind of the elephant in the room when it comes to talking to the conservatives out there about what it means to be libertarian. One of the big elephants in the room is legalization across the board. Drug legalization, legalized solicitation. I don't know what words I can use on what social media platform, so I think everybody knows what I mean. The fact of the matter is that the government is a terrible arbiter of moral good. We need to be a free people. And if we're not free to make decisions, including bad decisions, in our lives, then we're not truly free. Then those rights that predate our government, that are given to us by our Creator, are simply not rights, they're privileges. This thing's bad, I'm going to ban it. I'm going to use the state to get in the way of you doing this and that. The moral guidance of our country can't possibly come from the moral guidance of our country can't possibly come from the government. Who here looks at our elected officials and thinks these should be the moral leaders of our country? Nobody looks at government and says these are the people we should be allowing to guide our moral decisions. It's ineffectual. It's an incredible waste of money. We're squandering law enforcement resources that could be used to investigate and prosecute actual crime against other people. We have untested grape kits all across. I'm sorry I have to use this cheesy language, but I'm on multiple platforms and I don't want to get taken down. We have these untested kits all across the country because we are far more interested in directing resources to the prevention of the utilization of a weed, of a plant, than we are in directing our law enforcement resources to better places. I don't think you should do this. Saying that the government shouldn't ban something doesn't make it a moral good that I think you should do. But if you're looking for moral guidance and moral decision making, you look to the church for that, not to the state. If you look, what you're looking for from the state is simply a protection of natural rights. That's all you're looking for from the state. So when it comes to legalization, the other part of that conversation is the fentanyl, the heroin, all these supercharged chemical lab experiment drugs that are on the streets right now largely exist because of all of the legal hurdles to just smoke a little pot or have a little whatever. That is a natural thing. And so people want to get high. You can't kill demand. So what you do is you are essentially, as Milton Friedman said, the role of the government, realistically speaking, as it relates to the drug trade and the drug cartels, is to protect pricing and to keep that pricing incredibly high. I think that the world would be a much safer place. The United States would be a much safer place if we directed our law enforcement resources to protecting natural rights and advocated strongly against the use of powerful and illicit drugs and took them off of the black market and put a light on that stuff so people could seek treatment without stigmatization, and that's so that these drug cartels aren't being made wealthy by the restrictive laws in the United States. I'm not going to back down on that position. I know it's going to be wildly unpopular amongst rural conservatives in upstate South Carolina, but my core belief is that the federal government needs to be shoved back into its constitutional box and limited to the powers that were granted to it by the Constitution. That's where I stand. That is my position. So let me just say this. I know that I don't look or sound like a politician because I'm just a guy. That's it. I'm not going to sit here and read a list of credentials, tell you all the books I've read and go through all this other stuff. I'm just a guy who's been watching, who's been reading, who understands where the state of the country is, who understands that we can't keep doing what we've been doing and expect this amazing experiment to continue. And so I'm at least going to give you the opportunity to step out of that two-party system. Knowing what a long shot it is, I am saying that I'm not going to be accepting donations. I'm not going to solicit donations or anything of the nature. I will self-fund this campaign to the best of my ability. I will talk directly to voters here online as much as I possibly can. I am still a 50-year-old Gen Xer. So, and I don't have a producer, and I don't have tech support, and I don't have any of these things. So I am generally trying to figure out some of this technology stuff and the multi-streaming and all that as I go. I've had a few false starts, and I hope you guys will stick with me. If you want to support the campaign, if you believe in what I'm doing, if you believe in the message that I'm giving, then I would say go to my Linktree and follow me across the other platforms just to help comment, share the material, the content that I'm putting out. If for no other reason, then it draws attention. We all know how the algorithm works. And so that's what I'm relying on to run a campaign that can at least make an impact in the upstate. I think that when I look, and I will address some of the positions that the incumbent up here has, some of the things that the incumbent has said, but I'm not looking to sling mud. I'm just trying to draw a line between where they stand and where I stand. And I can tell you one of the things that is scaring me the most about the state of our country right now is that an incredibly popular incumbent in Kentucky was ousted from his seat because he failed a loyalty test to the President of the United States. And I guess I'm not overly concerned with how much you love the president. In an objective world, oh my God. I'm sorry, I'm getting messages about my life. In an objective world, you can look at the President of the United States and say, I like this person. I support him. I support his agenda. But the people of Kentucky shouldn't have millions of dollars of international donors coming in. Terrible false ads, literally using AI to make things appear as if they happened that actually didn't happen. Lying about a congressman's voting record to get him ousted from the seat simply because he's not loyal enough to the president. That is everything that I feared about a Donald Trump presidency. I was cautiously optimistic that Doge was going to be a real thing and that they were actually going to try and get the spending under control. I was cautiously optimistic that we were going to massively reduce the regulatory burden on American companies and allow them to compete. I was cautiously optimistic that we wouldn't get involved in any new foreign entanglements. But the history of the Republican Party and Donald Trump's personality led me to believe that that wasn't going to happen. And here we sit. So I did not vote. I did not vote for him. Did not support him. Did not campaign for him. And spoke urgently about the things that I was concerned about. And we are there. We're talking about ICE now. One of the things I talked about was mass deportation. People were on board. Mass deportation was an incredibly popular thing that he ran on. Secure the borders, deport the illegals. That was an incredibly popular thing that he ran on. It was an 80-20 issue. And what's happening now is we are exactly what I said was going to happen, that this was going to be an expansion of the police state, that we're going to grant this new powers and new authority and expand the surveillance state. And we're talking about ICE scanning eyeballs and doing all these different things. We're doing administrative warrants door to door, which is, by the way, something that the left could use against you when it comes to, hey, we understand you have this kind of a firearm. We have an administrative warrant. That's not a judicial warrant. That's not a warrant that allows you to enter somebody's home under the Constitution. That's a violation of your Fourth Amendment rights. We're celebrating it because it's being used in a way that we like. Some of us are celebrating it because it's being used in a way that some of us, I say us, but it's not me, like. It will be used against you. Every power that you enjoy, every power that is exercised in a way that you are in favor of is a power that could be used against you in the future. And I was terrified of this with mass deportation. And the protests aren't helping. And this is where I get into this, the left being kind of not to insult my friends on the left, but I'm going to insult my friends on the left. This is the Lenin's useful idiots protest, right? All these protests have done. There's not a policy prescription at the end of these protests. I'm kind of getting off into the weeds here a little bit, but this is what lives do. All of these protests are doing is giving justification for more federal authoritarianism. The mass deportation has been the standard policy of this country for decades. Never before have we seen local authorities, local politicians, ordering the local law enforcement to not cooperate. This is a new thing, that is a new form of resistance to this that is taking place. All of a sudden, mass deportation, which has been a policy in this country for over 30 years, dating back to Bill Clinton, all of a sudden it's such a pressing issue that we have to literally put our bodies in between law enforcement and civilians. We have to, and these people are going to be deported. We have to put our bodies in the way of law enforcement. We have to take all of this risk. We have to order our local police and law enforcement to not cooperate, which is what's putting more ICE on the street, which is what's justifying. Address this from a policy perspective. You haven't even attempted, because you've never resisted this policy before. You haven't tried the other route, which is don't make this an 80-20. Make it a 50-50 issue. Make it a 60-40 issue. Make it unpopular. But everybody, I've talked to these people who are I've talked to protesters. I've talked to progressives who are on that side of it. They don't have a policy prescription because they've never been opposed to this before. Maybe a tiny percentage of them, but overall, they've never been opposed to this. And all of a sudden, it's this issue, and it's a surge in federal power, and it's this justification for greater levels of authoritarianism. I don't like that ICE is on the street. I don't like that they're wearing masks. My proposal to solve immigration would be, and you're going to hate this in rural South Carolina, I'm just giving you all the warts first. For the overwhelming majority of the people who are in the country already, if you don't have a criminal, we have to get a pathway here. And it has to be quick, and it has to be easy, and it has to be inexpensive. We need to put these people on the tax roll. Ugh, it makes me a little bit to say that, but we have to get them onto the legitimate side of law and make them functional members of the society, not people who are living in the shadows. You can want to deport 20 million people, but you are not going to deport 20 million. It's not going to happen. So we got to deal with the people who are in the country. We absolutely have to secure the border. We need secure borders. A nation has the right to choose who comes in and out. And this puts me at odds with a lot of libertarians. No, I'm not an open border libertarian, but I am a pragmatic when it comes to policy. We have to focus on, which is what we were told was going to happen, on the worst of the worst, people with criminal backgrounds, people who've done harm in this country. We need to round those people up and get them the hell out of the country. People who've been here for years, who have been working, who've been contributing, who've been members of their society, their community, and have not committed crimes, we need to legitimize those people so that our law enforcement, again, we have a limited amount of law enforcement, so that our law enforcement can focus on dangerous criminals who are in the country. My next proposal would be that ICE, federal agents, whose job is immigration control and controlling the borders, must operate within 10 miles of the border. Once they get beyond the 10-mile mark, then they have to turn that over to the state or the municipality where they believe these people are. We don't want federal agents. We don't want a national federal police force on our nation's streets. That is a terrible idea. It's a terrible idea. Just because you're in favor of what they're doing today does not mean you're going to be in favor of what they're doing tomorrow. And once you grant this power, it doesn't go away. Patriot Act, DHS, TSA, warrantless surveillance, FISA 702, all these things that were 25 years ago established to fight the war on terror still exist today. And it is being expanded. In the age of AI, in the age of all this advancing technology, I don't want the federal government to have that level of power and control within the borders of this country. It's terrible. It's dystopian in nature. Excuse me, I didn't bring anything to drink. So the other thing here, so that's immigration. And now I'm going to just like take a look here at my feeds and see what is going on out here. All right, so there's Facebook. Let's blow that up real quick. Looks like it's working. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know if this is up or not. I can see myself, but I don't know if it's actually working. So if it doesn't look like it. Complete post details. I don't know what that's all about. Oh, there we go. I got to do all this nonsense first. Okay, it's see on Brian. All right, so I did not complete this. So I've been rambling like a madman, and I'm not even live. So there we go. Now I don't even. So I'm gonna go scroll down here, I guess, and go live. My video is starting. All right, that was really good stuff. But I'll post the video to the Facebook channel so that people can see it. I am on you. I know that I'm live on YouTube because I can see it in the YouTube studio. So I'm doing okay. And it looks like my upgraded internet connection is holding up pretty freaking well. So knock on wood that that's going well. My Facebook handle, all of my socials are Brian for Liberty in some form. So I think I'm Brian Korea for Liberty on Facebook. I'm Brian the number 4 Liberty on YouTube, and Brian underscore 4 underscore Liberty on TikTok, because I was trying all this stuff. My TikTok handle got banned. You couldn't even search for me for a while. And so Tumblr, one of my, what's it called? When you are both, I can't remember the term. Anyway, mutuals. One of my mutuals, there you go, on TikTok was kind of guiding me through a process of like experiments to try and get it. It is solved, by the way. You can search for me now on TikTok. That's amazing. Let's see. So I'm going to go through some of the commentary that I'm getting in my TikTok. That's where the majority of my commentary is. So Coyote 6183, the way the law is immigration is handled under the executive branch, I don't agree with it, but yeah, and it is handled under the executive branch. But we're not going to extend federal authority, okay? I don't believe that failing to do your job at the border should be an excuse to give the federal government and the executive branch more power. If your job is to protect the border and to secure immigration into this country. If you fail at the point of entry, that failure shouldn't grant you more power. Now you've lost now we're in the interior of the country now. So if you've got to rely on localities to solve this problem at this point. And if they don't want to cooperate, the federal government, I don't think the federal government has a right to go into Minneapolis, Minnesota and start chucking people on the ground and snatching people up and going door to door. I don't believe the federal government has that right. So when I criticize the protesters, people think that I agree with what ICE is doing there. I don't agree with what ICE is doing there. I think the protesters don't have a plan. And I think that if a Democrat wins in a couple of years and does mass deportation, those protesters will disappear just like the BLM protest did, even though there was not a single piece of criminal justice reform passed. I'm tired of the show up, hold sign, say thing people who don't have a plan, who don't know what they're showing up for. That's annoying to me. I also think that some of that is due to international funding. If you think that the United States is going to take its money and try and disrupt, things in other countries, the idea that China and other countries aren't funding this stuff backdoor. Anyway, I don't want to get all conspiratorial. But I don't want the federal police forces operating within the United States. Stop this stuff at the point of entry. That's your job. And then rely on municipalities. All right, so let's see here. I think the powers invested in the government are enumerated in the Constitution. Right. That's 100% accurate. Hi, Susan. Good evening. So I'm in my TikTok. So sorry, YouTubers. I should pull up the studio, I suppose, so I could see if anybody's in there commenting. That would be awesome, actually, because I don't get a lot of action over on YouTube. But of course, I don't do a lot over there. So I'm open for questions about policy. That's really what my lives are going to be about moving forward, is taking questions about policy and where I stand on issues, as opposed to, I do a lot of deep like economic conversations, and kind of we get off into the weeds a lot, but I really want to be answering questions about federal policy and what I would vote, this bill, that bill, and kind of be a little bit more specific and germane, and do this more as a campaign related action as opposed to entertainment value. Although I hope I'm, at least to some extent, entertaining. And again, this is new. I am kind of experimenting with this. I'm going to go back and do playbacks and all this stuff to make sure everything worked the way it should. I'm just taking a look at my screen here. There we go. And let's see, listen, this is good news. I've gotten 3, not 1, not 2, but 3 views on YouTube already. So, I mean, the races. It's pretty much, you're going to see me on national news pretty soon. I understand what it means to be a libertarian and run in a race like this. I get it. I understand that. That's why I'm not asking for donations. I know the long shot nature of this campaign. But I also know how disgruntled people are. And I think that a campaign that exists in this space, a campaign that says, "Come and talk to me. I'm here. Come talk to me." Um, I think people will. I think people will find that refreshing. I hope people respond to it. And the reality of the situation is pretty simple. If this campaign were able to make enough of an impact that it put the seat up in question, and it was able to make a third party candidate, a libertarian candidate, look like a viable candidate, that's where things can actually start to get very interesting. Things can actually start to change. So that's, I have a lot of goals for this campaign. Like I said before, I'm not taking donations. So if you feel like making a donation, a campaign donation, make a donation to charity and then go to my Facebook page and message me. I'm actually going to pin a comment at the top. If you want to support this campaign, make a charitable donation. And then if you make a charitable donation, put it in the comments. And somebody, please, a couple of you, go out there and make a charitable donation so you can put it in the comments. So it's not just this thing that I pin at the top of my Facebook page and then nobody makes any donations. My goal is $1,000. And I'm not telling you what charity to donate to. I'd love it to be an upstate South Carolina thing. I think that'd be really cool if people from around the country were looking at this campaign and donating money to charities in the upstate and helping people out. I think that's a lot better than a congressional representative going to Washington, D.C. and grifting for taxpayer money to bring back to their district, because that happens by making deals with other grifters from other districts, and it hurts the country as a whole, and it even hurts their own district because all this money printing is devaluing the purchasing power of their constituents. And some of them know it, some of them don't. It's complicated stuff. But from my perspective, if I can drive donations into the upstate and we can start tallying some real numbers, I think that'll make news. And maybe that'll get me some earned media here in the area. And so I'm going to go, I should go to my Facebook right now and do that while I've got you all here. I say you all like I've got 3,000 viewers here. I do not, in fact, have 3,000 viewers here. I don't know if I can open up my Facebook page while I'm doing a live. Can I do that? Oh, look at me. I'm live. Pretty neat. I'm going to like my own live. Can I do that? Boink. There we go. We're going to put this here. And if you want to, I'm going to do this right now, guys, live on air. If you want to support my campaign, please make a donation. Please make a donation to a charity here in upstate South Carolina. And comment below. How's that? That's pretty good, right? That's it. Pretty simple stuff, right? Next. And then I don't, so you guys are going to laugh at me so much. I don't know how to pin this comment. Not now. Thank you very much. So we'll set that in there. And then I know I can do this. Edit. I don't understand. Save post, to comment, edit, turn off notifications. I'm literally going to have to ask somebody how to pin this post to the top of my page, but I will figure it out. And I'm actually going to pin that comment. I'll do the same thing. I'll do the same thing on TikTok, and I'll make a reel on YouTube, or not a reel, a short on YouTube, asking for the same thing and collect comments. But I'm going to try and direct everybody to the Facebook page because I think that's where us voting age people, us Gen Xers and Boomers hang out now. Because we ruined that app a couple decades ago for everybody. I'm going to try and direct everybody to that one central place so that they can go there and leave that comment. And then we can, there's a dollar amount, there's a dollar threshold here where we're making an impact and we're making people's lives better in South Carolina without going and using government force to do so, while at the same time maybe drawing a little attention to a campaign. And there's actually better ways to do things out there than accepting a bunch of money from foreign powers and from big corporations and then having to grift for taxpayer money to solve problems we could solve in our own communities. So that's the goal of the campaign. I don't have a dollar amount. I'm like, $1,000 sounds pretty humble, maybe attainable over the next 6 months. It's something I'm going to bring up every time I do a live. So we'll see what happens. And then, like I said, I'm not asking for donations directly to the campaign. I'm going to try and self-fund and make as much of an impact as I possibly can. click the three dots. I knew I was going to get advice. The comment section never lets me down, man. Click the three dots in the right corner and you should be able to pin it. That's what I was trying to do. Let me go back here. I'm in my page. Here's the thing. Click the three dots. It says save post. Who can comment, edit, turn on notifications, share partnership, add code, turn off translation, edit date, and embed, or move to trash. It's the pin. That's what I thought, but it's not letting me. It's not giving me the option to pin the post. What if I edit it? There's an option to pin it while I'm doing it. You know what I mean? Nope, that doesn't look right. That's not getting it done either. By the way, if anybody here has found the Facebook page, go over there and take a listen. Also, by the way, drop a comment so that I know you stopped by and, feed the algorithm a little bit. And let me know how it sounds on the Facebook side of things. You'll probably be a little bit behind based on what I'm seeing. Oh, that's Anderson County. Hold on a second. I'm in mine, though. That's weird because it's showing me as... That's very strange. Let me go here real quick. I'm not on my own. I think that's what it is. I was not on my own. Nope, still not working. Oh, there it is. Pin post. Boom. Perfect. Now it's pinned. Yay. Okay. I was on the feed and not on the page. See? Freaking you watched Gen X technological savvy live. You got to capture that whole thing live. But if somebody could go to the YouTube channel and somebody could go to the Facebook page and just come back here and tell me how it looks and how it sounds, I would really appreciate that. I'll look into it after the fact, but I just kind of want to know, is this stuff working across the board? Did the process I use? I also just learned about how to go live on Facebook. So Facebook missed like the first 20 minutes of this thing, which was probably the best 20 minutes of the whole thing, to be honest with you. I'll try and recreate it. Greenville is upstate. I'm actually, so Looking Glass, just real quick, I am in Greenville County. So when I started this race, I lived in 3rd District. When I decided to run, when I filed my paperwork, I lived in the 3rd District. And I had no intention of moving. And things just changed, and they changed very rapidly. So I technically don't live in the 3rd District anymore, which is funny. I could walk to the 3rd District. I'm just outside of it. But I don't technically live in the 3rd District anymore. But it was too late for me to change and run in the 4th District. So I'm running where I'm running. And state law allows me to do that, and I lived there for 6 years, and my view on what I would be as a representative benefits every district in the state. So that's the status. So I'm actually in Greenville. I say that to say this. I'm in the Greenville County. I'm now in the Greenville County Libertarian district, as opposed to the Anderson County, which would be District 3. But I'm Anderson, Greenville, Spartanburg. That's all kind of like upstate. So yes, I'm in Ohio. I have no idea. Yeah, no problem. I'm from Ohio. I'm from originally from Canton, Ohio, until I was 15. Moved to Wisconsin, joined the Navy, traveled the world, and then after 20 years living in the Midwest, decided that the snow, I was done with it. More, my wife was done with it, and so we decided to move to South Carolina so we don't have to shovel snow anymore. I want to open up YouTube Studio. I know what the problem is. I'm not in OBS. I'm in the TikTok thing instead. Let's go here. All right. I want to open up YouTube Studio so I can see if I want to be able to respond to comments over there in the event that there is something going on over there. I don't think there is, but you never know. But I'm getting my feedback from the live control panel is that the quality is excellent. So the little bit of extra I spent on upgrading my social or my internet seems to be working. So that's part of self-funding your campaign. That's an out-of-pocket expense, but I feel like just being here and being alive is probably the best way for me to get the word out. So I don't have money to travel all over the state. I'm a husband and a father. I homeschool my son. I don't have time. I can't travel the state, but I can reach out across the state from social media. And you guys can help me do that by sharing, liking, commenting, and doing that across all of the social media channels. Feed the algorithm for me. I am typically on, and I will do everything I can to be on every weeknight at 9:30 Eastern time. I know that's a little late. especially for people like